All praises to the Most High. Hayeki said, all praises to the Holy Spirit, Kai. All praises to the Messiah, Mokes of the Lamb. It almost was too long since I came back to this book, and I almost didn't come to it today. We're in the book of remembrance of our ancient grandmothers, and I'm reading from the Zedekiah edition. The book of remembrance is a volume of books that was mentioned in the Bible by the prophet Malachi. Chapter 3, verse 16 says, Then they that revered and loved the Lord spake often one to another, and the Lord hearkened and heard it, and in his presence a book of remembrance was written for them that revered the Lord, and that thought upon his name. We're in chapter 11. Excuse me. We're in chapter 11. And I'm picking up on verse, it's going to be 41. Let's see. I might just finish this chapter out. Most High granted me, blessed me with some time. So maybe we'll just go ahead and finish out this account for Noah, or this chapter at least. Verse 41. And Noah was now prepared to present himself to Enoch, said, and this was the moment of his vision of created purpose. And when they deemed everything to be ready, Noah and Melchizedek went down into the valley by the ark to stand before the Lord at the altar. And Melchizedek assisted his father in all things. And the holy man Noah took his place before the altar of the Lord in the midst of the valley of Halel, and prepared to work the water tablet to call forth the flood. But to his dismay he found that he did not know how to proceed. And he said that a knowledge of what was written upon the tablet was not sufficient to accomplish this task. But Noah was not alarmed, because he was humble, and very accustomed to reproval and repentance coming to him by the kindness of Moses. So Noah withdrew from the altar and returned home. And he pondered as to how to proceed. And he was brought to doubt, because his kindred called into question his need to go into Halea to perform this task. And Imzara had not danced to bless his altar there, nor had she even ventured forth to see the ark. And the people of the encampment said to him, Surely you can perform this task for the Lord here in this place of safety. The Lord can hear all you say and see all you do from here. Is it not so? And thus his doubts troubled him. And it was decided that Noah should remain in the encampment and seek the Lord further in the matter. And Melchizedek comforted his father and assured him that he would not fail Moses of the Lamb, because it was his vision and life purpose to perform this task, to bring rest to Moses of the Lamb and the earth. And Melchizedek used the element of righteousness, and he prayed for his father that a way would come to him, so it could be known how he was to proceed. And his prayers issued forth in a great surge of power. And many days went by, and Noah spent much time in his special place of prayer. And Iona prayed prayers of protection for him. And Melchizedek kept the presence of opposing spirits away from him, for he was empowered over evil from on high. And thus time passed while Noah was often in his place of prayer, made sacred by the visits of Moses of the Lamb. And the spirits of the adversary of all righteousness were strong to try to destroy Noah, but he stayed strong in his faith. And the spirit of evil whispered in his ears that the ark was folly, and that he would be laughed to scorn. And Noah repented daily before the Lord and was comforted. And by, one morning, Melchizedek gently shook his father awake, and he said, Father, the children say that there is a stranger sleeping at the place of water, and he is inquiring for the white-skinned grandson of Iona. And Noah awoke, and he said, Go and see. And Melchizedek went, and he approached the man respectfully, and he found the man to be very old and thin, and he was a traveler, and very spry upon his feet. And the spirit was with him in abundance, and they spoke together for a while. And when Melchizedek returned to his father, he said, Father, it is a holy man, one who walks with Enoch, said. And he said he has been sent by Moses the Lamb to speak to you. Excuse me. Excuse me. And upon arising, Noah and Iona prepared her special bread and a meal for them to eat. And when all was ready, they sent for him. And when the old man came, he approached reverently, and he sat down on the north side of the entrance inside the dwelling. And he remained silent for a while, and Noah waited for him to speak. And soon he took off his bark covering and laid it aside, and he said softly, I am come before you this day to speak with the man who came from two mothers who have white stones. And Iona and Botan took out their stones, and set them before him, and he wept to see them. And he sang a song of praise to Enoki said, and he sang very quietly, but it sounded to me like the song of the third heaven. And after he finished singing, the women said to him, This man before you is our son. And Noah let down that which covered his head, and the old man gazed upon him. And the man said, My son, you are highly favored by Enoki said, and he has looked upon you, and he has looked upon all you have done for him with abundant pleasure. And when Botan heard this, she was amazed, but spoke not a word, for she had been one who had doubted that which her son was doing by going into Halea. And in her heart she repented before the Lord, and she set the meal before them, and it included also bread and wine. And before they ate, the old man prayed, and he broke the bread, and he blessed it, and he blessed the wine, which was fresh sweet apricot juice. And upon seeing it, the heart of Melchizedek was stirred, and he remembered carefully all that he saw the old man do. And the old man said, I am come as one who is sent from Enoki said to perform a task for him. I am Ozan of the seventh generation. I am the son of Tobin, who is the son of Yakan, who is descended from Kodesh. And I am the husband of Neshmaoth, the daughter of Shamar, who is the daughter of Azan, who is the son of Kavah. And I am named by my mother Shamar, after her father Azan, and I come from the regions of Qatar, and I have known your mother Iona, and these are the generations of my vision, and these are my parents, who have brought me to be what Enoki said created me to be. I am a listener, and all my forebears were listeners. And it came to pass that upon hearing this man recite his lineage, and part way through show his lineage to change, and come down through his mother and grandmothers, I asked the Lord, how could this be so? And the Spirit said that Ozan was one of the children of the people of Kadesh, who was stolen away and not rescued. And the people of Tawa named him Yathon, which means an orphan, because he had no parents. And in time he was brought to Qatar by Amaziyadad with the relatives of Aku. And Canaan and Shamar adopted him and named him Ozan. And Canaan was a good father to him and taught him righteousness. And Shamar in her wisdom and compassion nourished him, insomuch that he was healed from all his trials, and became a very holy man who walked with Enoki said. And at the time he was rescued, his parents could not be found in the land. And Ozan continued and said, Our ancient mother Kavah established listening as a way to always remember and pass on a knowledge of the doings of the Lord accurately to others, according as the Spirit would direct. And after she severed herself in the joys of forgiveness, she could with clarity hear the voices of the Irkodeshi, speaking their sweet messages of forgiveness in behalf of Moses the Lamb. And that which she was able to hear is the very longing of every human soul. And she taught her son Azan to listen also, and he is the elder father of all listeners, because he expanded listening to include all that is spoken of by the Irkodeshi in their righteousness, and the knowledge of all that is holy. And thus Azan added the righteous skills of his father Yatsakad to the skill of listening. And because of this, he established the knowledge of that which we call the languages of the Irkodeshi. And it came to pass that the Lord began to instruct me with marvelous understanding, and I beheld that the seven qualities of spirit are from the perspective of women, and they are all wisdom applying to our present moments in the temporal world. And while they apply to both men and women, they did not originate in Eden, because there was no sin there. And the need to feel forgiven was not known in Eden, but the knowledge of Azan was from the view and understanding of a man who sees the world from out of the midst of eternity, and he was able to bring the ancient righteousness from Eden directly into the temporal world. And Shamar was blessed by her view as a woman, and gaining the skill of listening and remembering the important teachings of the Lord as to the need to feel forgiven. And she was filled with a knowledge of holy teaching. And in her days, the languages of the people began to be diverse, and those from certain places on the earth could be distinguished by the sounds of their speech. And she could discern by the Spirit the meaning of their words. And she taught this to her daughter Neshmaoth. And Neshmaoth added to this discretion with that which was committed to memory and spread abroad, in order to safeguard the knowledge of things which were sacred. And she taught her husband all she knew. And Ozan said, and my fathers have been faithful, and have carried the knowledge of these things from Yatsakad down to me. And thus I come to you this day as a listener, and I come to report to you that which I have heard from my fathers, and according to the leadings of the Spirit to me, and I have felt compelled to do so for the sake of Motza the Lamb. And I trust that the message which I bring will be important and a blessing for you. And Anoki said requires it at my hand. And it came into my mind clearly that which Ozan was about to teach was brought by Azan listening intently to all that which his father Yatsakad expressed with his feelings in Eden, and that which Ozan was bringing into Noah, and that which Ozan was bringing to Noah was sacred ancient righteous knowledge that was established in Eden by the Lord and Yatsakad when they together entered into the forms the element of creation had taken. And it is the purest and most holy righteousness that can be known by mankind. And it is this very knowledge of the languages of the Ir-Kodeshi that enabled Noah to call forth the flood, and Melchizedek to establish Shabuah. And I could see by Urim that Melchizedek was deep in thought at all Ozan said, and he was very pleased that Anoki said should send this holy man to come to his father, and thus answer his prayers. And after a while, Ozan said to Noah, little son, what is troubling you? And Noah said, the Lord has required of me the task of calling forth great waters of a flood, to aid him in his despair over the evils in the valleys of Halea. And I have built an ark there, according to all of his instructions. And it is now at this time completed, and rests upon a hill in the western parts of the great valley of Halea. And I went there to commence my task, but I fell into doubt and despair, because I could not discern how to proceed. Knowing how to read the tablet which came down to me from my grandmother is not sufficient for me to begin. And my people helped to build the ark, and they do not understand why I must go into the valley of Halea to perform this task, as they consider the Lord can hear me here in our place of safety. And it came to pass that Iona brought out the water tablet, and she presented to Ozan all the meaning written thereon, and she used a feather quill to point it out on the tablet. And upon hearing these things, Ozan turned, and he said, little son, water cannot be sent. It either must approach you, or it must depart away from you. You must go there to the place where the flood will come, and call the water to you there. You cannot send it there from here. And upon hearing this, the heart of Noah was revived, and the spirit speaking through Ozan lifted a burden from his soul. And Noah praised Anoki said for sending Ozan to guide him. And Noah said, dear father, I do not know how to proceed with my task. And Ozan said, I do not know how to answer that for you, but I know what I am constrained to speak. Our father Yatsakah established a knowledge that there are feelings that we call languages, that are from the spirit of life, which the Creator put into all that is holy in creation. And when you learn what specific feeling gives life to any one of the Ir-Kodeshi, then your heart is in tune with them, and your heart can hear them speak their feelings to you. And the two of you can commune together, and you can understand one another. For example, when it rains, if you know the language of the rain, then you can feel the rain tell you if it is sad and crying, or weeping for joy, or if it is simply doing what it was created to do day by day. And in this way, the feelings of it are called a language. And I would tell you what those languages are, for in order for you to fulfill your task, you must instruct the Ir-Kodeshi each in their own language, concerning the instructions written upon the water tablet of Enoch, which he sent to your grandmother. Our first parents expressed their dominion both in Eden and here in the temporal world by instructing and guiding the Irkodeshi every day of their lives. And your father Enoch also instructed them, and all he accomplished in his many divisions. And you also must instruct them in a way that they can understand in their own languages. And the feelings of your heart must not be to call them to be against the wicked, but to assemble, to apply themselves, and act in support of loving kindness. And this is because all the Irkodeshi in their various kinds are best instructed according to the feelings of loving kindness from Anoki said that Motsa put into them when Olam was transformed into Eden. And they are familiar with their languages and will respond out of love when they are addressed in their own language. And they cannot be taught to hate the wicked, but only to respond out of grief as an act of love for Motsa the Lamb. And know that Shamar was present and listened when Azan her father established these things, and thus the water tablet that was written by Enoch has never been used, and you are called upon to establish the use of it, and you have been specially prepared to do so. Now, as I witnessed these things with Urim, my soul saw a light, and it was a light of truth, and I could now see more clearly the broader view of the situation that was before me, and I began to understand how the forces of evil had conducted themselves, and how the forces of holiness had prevailed, to bring Noah to these moments of instruction with Ozan. The evil one had been laying the foundations against him for a long time by attacking the people who were his forebears. And they, by the power of perfect virtue and the grace of the Lord, had established in their lives the very conditions in repentance and virtue that laid the foundations for loving kindness and holiness to succeed. And Noah was surrounded by women who were strong before Anoki said, and an account of his wife Imzara had shown her to be stalwart, and his mother Botan was innocent and acceptable before the Lord, and his grandmother Iona was courageous and long-suffering in the face of all she had to endure. And the sisters of Noah, Arvade and Atun, who were much older than him, were the progenitors of the people who did not engage in evil of any kind. And the great-grandmother of Noah was Adah, who was carried away on the day of her wedding. And in those most extreme circumstances, she established perfect forgiveness. And her daughter Iona, who was born into captivity without a father, was raised up with perfect freedom in her heart. And Iona, when she had to undergo the ridicule and estrangement of her people because she was called almond, and they would not allow her to speak, still maintained her sense of self-confidence and faith. And she raised up the father of Noah without the aid of a husband. And the Lord provided for her to find the perfect wife for her son. And Imzara was endowed with holiness of heart by the Lord, to be so charitable and virtuous that she could marry a man who was completely different than any man of his time, he being the first to be born with a completely white countenance and appearance. And further, Noah was deprived of a father who could teach him the deeper ancient ways of righteousness of Eden, because his father Lamech was raised with no father to teach him. And the ancient Edenic righteousness for many long years had no language to describe it in order to pass it on to others. But Azan perceived it and understood it, and he searched to find new language to describe it by the voice of the Holy Spirit. And Shamar, as a little child, would inquire of her father and persist until he could explain the feelings of his heart to her. And thus, starting at an early age, she took on the role as a listener, and in them righteous language was brought into fuller use, and she taught Ozan, and in many tender moments they found together as a mother and child, and Ozan flourished in his vision. And so the Lord intervened again and brought Ozan to teach Noah these essential of ancient righteousness, and brought his soul into direct contact with the powers of the ancient righteous inner feelings of their father Yatsakad. And in this way I arrived to see the moment that Motsa achieved victory in the life of Noah, so that he could fulfill his task and bring creation back to his father Anoki said. And Ozan said, I will now rehearse to you all that I have heard and have been instructed to hand down regarding the language of the Irkodeshi. They all have an important truth to influence you, and they can also be true companions in all your daily walk. Clouds speak the language of watching, and the truth and knowledge can come to you from them through your eyes. and the feeling they carry is to be always traveling and moving across the land, observing all that can be seen to bring instruction. And when you speak to the clouds, you must think and feel with them concerning understanding that which they have seen, and from them all the Irkodeshi are called watchers. And fire speaks the language of humility, not the humility that is submission to control, but to growth and learning and becoming new through repentance and introspection. And when you are a friend to fire, it can influence you with its feelings to look inside yourself and see that which you have been hesitant to know about yourself, and thus be an influence to lead you to live the abundant life. And the hills speak the language of remembering of all that which has occurred upon them. And they remember every footstep that ever has been taken upon them since the image of Anokised first took form in Olam. And they remember every birthplace and every grave. And they remember every act of love and every act of violence that occurs upon them. And they carry a gift for you in what they feel. And the gift is a comprehension of your place in the flow of mankind on the pathway of life with your fellows. And the grass speaks the language of joining. And if you listen to what it feels, a knowledge of that which causes alienation of the and the absence of feeling in your life can come to you. And the feelings of the spirit that gives grass life is cleanness, and it can guide you to know the grandeur of the experience of the gift of true worthiness, insomuch that you can be free of fear to trust and join others in spite of vulnerability. And rain speaks the language of the cycles of life, and it speaks in circles, and in its creation, it wants only to be round, and all things associated with it are round. And in its spirit, it always goes out and continues until it gets back to the beginning again. And thus, a drop that falls off a leaf and joins with others and runs in a rivulet that becomes a stream, which becomes a river that enters the sea, is raised up and becomes a drop again that falls on a leaf. Be diligent in all the things that you are led to know by their spirit and righteousness, so that you are not led astray to never find your beginnings, and rid your life of self-interest, but lay hold of your beginnings, and the rain will obey you when you speak to her in her language. And thus it was, and the thunder speaks the language of prophetic insight, and the sound of it can bring you to an awareness of your readiness for things to come, and it will reprove you in your need for diligence and maturity in all your preparations as you bring your gift of life to a fullness. And the spirit of life in the thunder will listen to you, and the two of you can ponder together upon that which is to come. And the love of Anoki said in the thunder desires for you to never be caught unaware. And trees speak the language of friendship, and they know who the friends of the righteous are, and they know who cares about them, and they have filled themselves with a multitude of blessings for those they claim as their own. And when they love them, and when you love them and know them, they will tell you in the feelings of your heart all the latest news, both of things on the earth and in heaven, and they will delight to have a mutual friendship with you. And the wind speaks the language of feelings, and it looks upon you and surrounds you and enters into your chest. It celebrates the gift of life that is yours. And when it finds corruption and alienation and deadness of soul, it will respond out of sorrow, and it will rush in its travels expressing its grief. And those with cold, empty hearts are seen by the wind to be strangers to the earth. And when you express and feel praise and thankfulness with the wind for the gift of life, the wind can convey the breath of God into the bosom of your soul. And rocks speak the language of remembering, and they remember, and are thus called rocks of witness. And a knowledge of creation before Eden is always present to them. In it is, excuse me, and it is in their spirits of life, and they are aware of what Olam was like before Moses the Creator entered into them with his presence and your vision of created purpose. And they are always aware of what Eden was like before sin entered in, and Eden became the temporal earth, and they comprehend that the earth is the home of the wayward children of Enoki said. And they continually cry out for us to find our Redeemer, and they rejoice that he was able to enter into all creation through the man that he became in his loving kindness. And rocks will listen and speak to all who know him. And the sun speaks the language of the present moment. And your present moments are always moving behind you to create new ones. And the spirit and presence of the Lord in the light of the sun can bring to your mind the importance of special sweet moments that you need to enjoy, because they may never pass your way again. And the light that fills your heart will bring you to moments of sensing eternal truth. And the rivers speak the language of happiness, and they are strangers to complaining, murmuring, contentions, and discord. And those who share their spirits with them will be heard by them. And the spirit of serenity will enlarge itself in your heart. And flowing streams are travelers, and when they wash you, they bring peace of mind and a strong hope for the life to come. And they carry your impurities far away. And when they encounter strangers or those who are unthankful, they will swell and spill over in their grief, in an effort to purify the land of sadness. And mountains speak the language of holiness, and the grandeur of their speaking can bring one to silence, and hearts can feel their counsel even when they want to close it out. And the Decadarshi are strangers to them, and an affront to their spirits. One must cling to that message that they can speak to your heart and carry it into the low places. And they are gentle mothers and fathers to us all, and they nourish us with many delights. But the evils of fornication and acts committed in darkness bring them to the pains of grief, and they belch forth their sorrow in their desire to be clean and free and holy. And fountains speak the language of eternity, and they come from places unknown to us, and they gush forth according to their will, and they flow out to meet us, pure and sweet, and they never stop, but come to us happily, as an innocent child would, and the past and the future are one to them, and are engulfed in the joy of the present. And the pool of heaven was such a one, and it is known that eternal truth flowed out to all those who were gathered there. And Ozen said to Noah, even these truths that I am placing before you came in the presence of the fountain at the rock of Simca, where Kava rested. And the dew speaks the language of charity. And when it comes and where it goes, no man notices. And it is gentle and clings only to that which is most willing to receive it. Therefore, one finds dewdrops on the tiny points of things, shining like gems in the light of the sun. And those of gentle spirit will hear gentle and mild thoughts and requests. And the soft voice of it is clear reproval to rid oneself of hardness of heart. And Ozen continued, and he said, all the Irkodeshi are familiar with the language of their fellows, and the men of Abara can cross over to speak to them in their feelings from the temporal world in the purity of Eden, and they can speak to them either as one or to all of them in full assembly. And you and your son Melchizedek are numbered among the men of the order of Abara. And all who heard him wondered how this man could know the name of the one who is known only as Shem to those outside of their encampment. And they all held their thoughts. And Ozen continued, and he said, as much the two of you have the undivided authority of elder, and you can sound the trump to summon the Kodeshi into full assembly in order to instruct them according to the will of Motsa the Lamb. And even now, at this time, they urgently await you to speak to them and call them forth. And oceans speak to man with the feelings they send forth, of the power of the love of Enoki said to give life in abundance. And the waters thereof will move and leap according to their will, and oceans will resist the powers of evil. And those who cross thereon to establish dominance over their fellows must indeed beware. And when one beholds that the oceans have become corrupted with the effects of the unclean acts of the Decadarshi and from the refuse of their lives, then it can be known that their day of recompense is near at hand. and they shall throw themselves upon the shores in their grief. And the feelings of the seas call one to be strong and determined to walk in faith, and to be diligent to perform every needful task that they have been urged upon to do, for Enoch said in his loving kindness. And animals speak the language of obedience. And when you are obedient, their spirits will join with yours, and they will be unafraid, and serve you with all diligence. And they will give of themselves for your benefit, in both their spirits and in their bodies. And just their presence among the people will bring nourishment to the soul. So in your obedience, be kind and respectful to them, and listen to them carefully, and you will be blessed indeed. And the richness of the gift of life for those who hear and speak the language of animals will be a delight for the heart of Enoch said, and that richness will spill over and accompany us into the heavens. And fruit of trees speak the language of personal fulfillment and success, and they feel the passages of your life and want to be present there. And they come to you to tell your heart that patience and endurance through the processes of life is rewarding, and comes to those who are wise and purposeful in their labors. And the spirit of life in them will nourish your soul and body to find long life and healing. And wastefulness grieves them, and their spirits will depart in the face of it. And a wasted life brings them into despair. And the moon speaks the language of the purpose of your creation, and it always brings the feelings of hoping a person will decide carefully in the important decisions of life. And it grieves over decisions that lead to chaos and despair. And it rejoices when the gift of life is expanded and enjoyed by the leadings of the Spirit. And the soft moonlight will speak to you about the truth to help you to make sound decisions, even in small things, so that you can fulfill your vision of created purpose. And the stars speak the language of Eden with the perfection of way that leads there. And they hold the veil that is before our eyes, and they can inspire and call out to us to see further, listen better, and speak more and clearer truth. And their spirits will be waiting for us when we pass through the veil back into Eden. And righteous people here in the temporal world can have moments of the vision of it, and that is crossing over. And it is said by some that it is to behold the life that is in all things, in the comprehension of it. And I noted as I looked with Urim that Ozen did not include in his instructions the calendar nor the seasons. And this is because Azan established the knowledge of all the language of the Ir Kodeshi, excepting those who came from the division of days established by Enoch, of which he had no knowledge. And Ozen said, Noah, little son, your very name points toward the rest of Enoch said, and the great Holy One has put you into a position to speak to all the Ir Kodeshi, and especially to those most involved in your task, to bring Enoch said that rest. And the holy watchers are ready to listen to you even now at this time. And I say this because at this moment, what has brought me here is my awareness of their distress. And when I inquired of Moses the Lamb concerning the matter, he instructed me to come here to visit you and expound upon that which he has brought me to know as his listener. And at this moment, the Ir Kodeshi are confused, and they are anxious and grieving, and they know not which way to turn, because they think the whole world is Ma'in, and in their innocence of heart and distress, they see the great wickedness of Haleah to be corrupting the holiness of Ma'in, and they do not know that Senusio followed the Dekadarshi out of the abyss from the high plain of the eastern waste places of Mount Mahuja to dwell with the wicked. But Ma'in is only one of the places where the righteous dwell in the loving kindness of Enoch said. And they are unwilling to come out against Ma'in, and they must be instructed in all these things, for without their assistance and the power of their love and purity, the wickedness of those in the valleys of Halea will continue on to only grow to overshadow all the purposes of Anokised in creation. And their corruption will both sadden Anokised and threaten all his holy people. And I knew, as I viewed this with Urim, that this same condition would come to the world in the final end of days. And in those days, the remaining portion of the great prophecy of Kavah will transpire, and the terrible Nephilim of the last times will be destroyed by fire. And Ozen continued, and he said, So, little son, you must go now and learn of the cycles of life from the waters, and come to speak to the waters in their own language. And you must teach them that Halea was once a holy place, and they can bury it and hide it from the face of Anokised to cleanse it. Be comforted, all of you, for the Lord has caused a place of safety to be prepared for you and your son. And he will call to you at your place of worship those who he will, and they will come to you there. And it came to pass that I saw Melchizedek carefully listening to all that which the holy man Ozen had to say. And you will see that which he learned from him, he will use to bless all the families of the earth. Now, after Ozen was done speaking, all that the Lord had instructed him to say, he arose up and he began to prepare to travel on. And the people prevailed upon him to stay a while, and they tenderly looked to his care. And Ozen rested in their encampment for the rest of that season, and the children loved him dearly, and he taught many things to them. And I saw with Urim that he was little and very thin, and his hair was snow white, and it was in two braids. And by this it was known that he still had a wife living. And Ozen awoke one morning, and he said that the Lord Motsa was calling him to a task, and he would be on his way. And he said, The Lord wants me to go with my rib, and together we will go to some Ionians to instruct them to move to higher ground. And perhaps my rib and I will dwell with them before we pass from this life. And I will tell them that I dwelt in the encampment of Iona for a time. And Ozen walked away into the evening twilight, being provided for by the people of Noah, and their prayers followed along with him. And it came to pass that the whole encampment repented and thanked Motsa the Lamb for the rich reproval they gained from Ozen. And all were now prepared to support Noah in his task before Anokised. And Noah repented for his dismay and doubts, and he recognized what it meant in his life for his father to be raised up without a father. And he was exceedingly grateful for that the Lord had sent Ozen to teach him of this ancient righteousness. And he began to thrust himself into learning from the Irkodeshi of the earth the nature of the languages that each one spoke. And he became acquainted with more of the spirit of life. And they each had been given more of the spirit of life they each had been given. And I saw that he spent 4 years more in his preparations, and his heart was opened up to hear how the hills and valleys and waters of Halea regarded that which was transpiring in their midst with terrible Nephilim wars. And Noah and the Irkodeshi spoke often together of their desire to have their shame covered, to never be laid bare again. And Noah became a familiar friend to the Irkodeshi of the great valley of Halea, and he comforted the Irkodeshi with hope, and his heart was instructed by the compassion he felt for them, and by their mutual love for Anokised. And the Irkodeshi cried out under the weight of their burden, and my sorrow increased so much that I determined to rest from the use of Urim for a while. Shalom.